We got a lot of new Outlander content from San Diego Comic-Con, including a brand new clip of Brian and Ellen meeting in secret from Blood of My Blood. The clip starts out with Ellen standing on one side of the bridge and Brian standing on the other. And this is the bridge that we saw in the opening sequence, the opening credits that were just released last week, where the two of them seem to meet privately to talk to one another multiple times throughout the show. But this clip seems like the first time that the two of them meet here and have their first private discussion with one another. So we see Ellen get off her horse and start walking towards Brian, who is standing on the opposite bank. And she points out to him that it's not usual for a lady to meet a man she doesn't know like this, in this way. Brian standing opposite her like this is just so reminiscent of Jamie. The outfit's so similar, the hat is so similar, and I think the people in charge of the costumes did a wonderful job giving Brian his own identity while still calling back to who his son will eventually become. The way he stands, the way he holds his sword on his hip, it's very, very close to how Jamie was developed as a character. As Ellen starts to tell Brian that it's not usual for her to meet someone, he points out, well, you came anyway, and Ellen insists that it was mainly to say that she's going to wish him farewell and she cannot stay. But Brian asks her, almost in desperation, if she will stay and speak to him. And you can see and hear in his voice that he is desperate to talk to her more and get to know her. And I love that this is likely taking place after the two of them meet each other in the stables, in that really iconically shot scene where the two of them are looking at each other through the cracks in the wall. I really love how that scene was shot, and I'm excited to see the tension building before they meet here at this river. And you can just tell that Ellen is so nervous about this, because I think she knows, just like Brian knows, that she feels something very strongly. And so beginning to walk down this path could be very treacherous for her. And then Brian, ever so charming, says that he will not have her honor or her virtue in question. And since they don't have a chaperone there to make sure that nothing happens that might put that honor or virtue in question, he insists that the bridge could be their chaperone and they stay on their sides of that bridge. In the opening credits of the show, the song that is playing and being sung in the background mentions "O'er the Bridge." And so this bridge is definitely going to be a very significant location for these two characters as they get to know one another and their relationship builds upon this moment. And just with this one line, you can tell that Brian is a man of honor and he very much respects Ellen and wants to do things the right way with her. And I think Ellen, as cautious as she is taking in that information, and it's only adding to her attraction to him. Because you have to keep in mind that Ellen is really the talk of the town. She is the woman that everyone is lusting after. She is also a woman that has been, told many times that she's going to be married off to a family that will benefit her clan in the way that her brothers and her father often told her would likely happen to her as an adult. And so this is an interesting position for her to be in too, speaking to someone who is not being presented to her. She met him organically, and the way that he is acting towards her is probably refreshing. So when she does finally agree that she will stay and talk to Brian, I think he feels like that's a little victory for him. And he says to her that he would take advantage of the moment he has with her by removing an obstacle, and he never asked her name. So he asks her then what her name is, and she says Ellen. Now again, the fact that she just says Ellen and does not include her last name, I think is another key indicator that she's probably very tired of, her ties to her clan and the Mackenzie name being what people think of first, and that their reaction to her is usually different once they know that she is Ellen Mackenzie. And I just love how Brian's face after finally learning this woman's name lights up in the way that it does here. And he introduces himself as just Brian back to her, which I think is sort of a metaphorical way of them showing to each other and to the viewer that the two of them, at the heart of everything, love and feel for each other in a way that is stripped away by all of the politics of the time. Those things do not matter to them. The way that they feel about each other comes first, and they are their simplest forms of one another in each other's presence. They're not Brian and all the baggage he comes with, and Ellen and all the baggage she comes with. They are just Brian and Ellen together. This clip was obviously trimmed down to fit in the Instagram reel format, but in the full version on YouTube, you can see Ellen on this side of the bridge and Brian is standing directly opposite her on the other side of the bridge, and it's just a really beautiful shot. And Ellen asks him at that point, "Do you have a surname, Brian?" And he finds that funny and says, "Of course I do, but you haven't told me yours." Ellen sort of has this fantastic reaction where she has a smile on her face when she says Ellen Mackenzie of Leoch, and then her face just slowly kind of loses the confidence that she has when she initially announces her full name. And you can see that she gets nervous about what Brian's reaction is going to be once he actually hears her full name and where she is from. And sure enough, when we cut over to Brian's face, he does have a smile on his face that slowly fades as well when he comes to the realization that she is a Mackenzie. And this, I think, is just so beautiful because it sets up this forbidden romance so perfectly and subtly for us as viewers. And Ellen almost gets insecure about it and nervous about it and asks Brian, "Do you not approve of my last name?" And I think, again, it comes back to her probably hearkening on every reaction she's received from a potential suitor her entire life as being the daughter of Jacob and the eldest daughter, nonetheless, who for a very long time was protected by him and not forced to marry. And now that he is dead, she's in a position she has not been in yet, which is where Colum and Dougal are very much trying to offer her up to the best suitor here. And that would make anyone insecure about their worth because you're being seen as property. You're not being seen as a person in many respects. But the reality that she's met with is that Brian does not feel like that. And I'm putting words in his mouth. I don't think that Brian has a horrible reaction about Ellen being Ellen. I think he just realizes that there's an obstacle for both of them because he happens to be a Fraser. So Ellen being a Mackenzie isn't, I think, the problem for him. It's the fact that he is a Fraser to her Mackenzie. And you can tell right away that Ellen agrees that this is not going to bode well for either of them, given that new information and the realization they both just had. And he lays out to Ellen, he is the son of Simon Fraser, who is formerly Lord Lovat of Beaufort Castle, something that I will dig in deeper on because I had someone ask me what's the deal with the Frasers and the Mackenzies, why do they hate each other so much? And this actually provides a little bit more context too, because Beaufort Castle is mentioned a handful of times in the source material, and we did hear that name referred to in season 2 of the main series, but he says presently of Leathers, so that's also new information for me. And Ellen's face here is just so perfectly encapsulating her unease about this new information, which she follows up by saying that is unfortunate. When he agrees, I think the other really genius thing is the music and how we had this very optimistic music playing in the background, and then at the end of this scene, the tone is just completely different. It's like they sucked the energy out of the scene completely, and the two of them are defeated by this information in many respects, and we feel that because of the music as well as their acting. I'm really impressed, just like I am with the actors playing Claire's parents, with Jamie Roy's portrayal of Brian and how much of Jamie I see in him, but also with Harriet Slater's portrayal of Ellen. I am really in love with the two of them already from what little we've seen of them, and this scene too sets up that very stereotypical but amazing trope of forbidden romance that the two of them are about to embark upon. And I personally feel the love they have and respect they have for one another in this very small clip. So I cannot wait to see more of them in the premiere, which is next week.